There are always going to be shows where you end up being on the side of the minority, where you love something many others hate, and vice versa. Accel World is one of those shows for me. A series that has an incredibly mixed reception that I simply adore. And I've always tried to think about why that is. What do others find so problematic about this particular anime? Why has it received so much disdain over the years from the wider community? And I think there are a few reasons that I'd like to talk about. For better or for worse, Accel World can't quite escape the shadow of its sister series, Sword Art Online. And despite beginning 3 months earlier during the same year, Accel World never got to reach the heights of popularity that SAO achieved. Getting dwarfed almost immediately while you're still airing doesn't exactly help to draw in new viewers. Now that being said, it's not like SAO is exactly a well-received series either, and this in part is what pushes people to avoid Accel World altogether and not give it much of a fair shake. With both of their source materials being written by the same person, Nareki Kawahara, it's easy to see why people would assume Accel World would just be SAO with minor differences. And while both shows do revolve around games and have other elements in common, the two feel more different than similar to me. After all, I do not like SAO, but I still love Accel World. So why is that? The characters, for me, rather than the specifics of their plots, are the best way to show the differences between them. While SAO is notorious for its characters being stale and perfect from the get-go, Accel World's characters are all flawed and damaged in some way, even if some seem perfect on the outside. They all struggle throughout the series to face these flaws and either overcome them or accept them, whether it be having a poor self-image, intense guilt over the past, or simply feeling inadequate. Everyone in Accel World is imperfect, and that's a good thing. The main character, Haruyuki, encapsulates this the best. He is truthfully the only protagonist in anime I can think of who happens to be overweight, and this compounded with constant bullying, terrible self-esteem, and the sense that he has few qualities worth praising, has us find him in a very broken state when the show begins. But as time goes on, and he gets involved with Kuroyuki Hime and the world of Brainburst, he grows, gains more confidence, and sees himself for the person he truly is, not the weak little pig others expect him to be. And I really love this type of character, someone who starts off weak but grows into a more confident hero by the end. He reminds me a lot of Simone from Gurren Lagann, who happens to be one of my favorite anime characters. But I've started to realize I might be in the minority for enjoying this character outline. After all, while Simone is the main character in Gurren Lagann, it's actually Kamina who starts out as a badass and doesn't really change all that much, who people tend to like more. So maybe most people just don't enjoy characters like Simone and Haruyuki, or at least not as much as I do. Of course, I'd be remiss not to mention just how much hate Haruyuki gets because he's overweight. And while some will argue it's just how his design is drawn rather than him being overweight specifically that makes them not like him, it still makes me sad to see so many in the anime community completely write a character off just because he's fat. I also want to note just how much I adore Kuroyuki Hime as a character. I genuinely believe that if she were in a less maligned series, she would be one of the most popular female anime characters out there. Her personality and backstory just really make her stand out. And I also think her relationship with Haruyuki is really cute and a charming aspect that the series has. But alas, she doesn't really get the notoriety I think she deserves because she's in Accel World and not a different series. Now, beyond its association with SAO and the problems people have with the protagonist, what else pushes people away from Accel World? And I think the other major issue, one that I do understand, is the ending, or rather, the lack thereof. Now, Accel World does resolve the arc it was following by the end of its main 24 episodes, but the overarching story is left hanging. Now, we did get 2 OVAs afterwards, but they were mostly just for fun. Not bad, but not really progressing the main plot. And then the movie Infinite Burst happened, and, well, we'll get to that little gem soon. So as things are now, there is no proper conclusion, no satisfying resolution to multiple plot points that were previously set up in the main show. And what makes people particularly dislike the final arc, the second half of the show, is that the main plot regarding the Kings of Pure Color, expanding Mega Nebulous, and learning who created Brainburst all just gets sidelined for an arc more focused on challenging the other main characters, while Kuroyuki Hime isn't in a position to bail them out. Now, I really enjoy this arc for what it is and what it does. Haru is put in a really vulnerable position again after feeling much more confident in himself from the first half of everything that happened in it. And he has to learn to rediscover his real strength. The villain, Seiji Nomi, is just one of those antagonists you love to hate. He's an awful person, but a very effective villain. And by the end, a number of major elements are either revealed or set up for the future. And I think that if this wasn't the final arc, if there was just one more afterwards that put the focus back on the main plot, it wouldn't be as disliked as much. But because the story ends on what might feel like a side adventure rather than continuing on, it leaves an awkward taste in people's mouths. And while I really like this arc and appreciate it when judging it for its own merits, I can't really blame people for struggling to enjoy a show without a proper ending. It's something we deal with a lot in anime, and way more often than we should. But this isn't technically the end, unfortunately. Here is where we have to discuss Accel World Infinite Burst, a movie released back in 2016, and it is awful. So let's rewind for a bit first. It's around October 2015, 6 years ago, in fact. And alongside the announcement of the SAO Ordinal Scale film, we are told that Accel World will also be receiving a new project. What once seemed like only a dream became reality. A continuation, finally. And at first, Infinite Burst was implied to be an anime original second season, which to me didn't matter. I didn't care if it was anime original or not, I just wanted more content. I wanted another season. And for a few months, this made me excited. Until the truth of what this project was slowly got unveiled. First, it was announced that it wasn't a new season after all, but a movie, which, okay, since Ordinal Scale was a movie, it maybe wasn't the most surprising that Infinite Burst would also be a movie, but fine. Movie is still new content. It wasn't what I had hoped, but still, more Accel World was appreciated regardless of the form it took. Right? Well, then the death blow finally came. Not only was the film only 1 hour and 22 minutes, but half the runtime was recap of the first half of the show. And then the new anime original content in the other half was set after where the light novels were at that time, completely skipping over everything the anime had not covered between where it ended and where the light novels were. It doesn't take much for someone to realize this film was terrible. The new content itself wasn't anything to write home about, even ignoring everything else that I just mentioned. And I think the fact that they even chose to make a movie set post the light novels instead of a new series or setting it after where the series was suggests there probably aren't any legitimate intentions to make a real continuation to the show. And that's just depressing, because with where the show is with regards to its ending and the debacle with Infinite Burst, I completely understand if someone wants to avoid watching the show for those reasons. But nevertheless, I still love this show and its characters, and want to be proven wrong someday about my thinking that a continuation will probably never happen. Even with the lack of an ending, I still want more people to try this series out and give it a fair shake, and not let its association with Sword Art Online or the design of the main character push people away from it. I want people to try and see what I see in it. So I hope that I've helped present Accel World in a more positive light than it's gotten over the years, and that others out there can come to love and cherish its story and the characters the way that I do, not despite their flaws and imperfections, but because of them.